Today's story is an electrifying sci-fi adventure titled The Universe Realized Too Late Why Humans Kept Saying, Don't Make Us Mad. Dive into a thrilling tale of humanity's resilience, ingenuity, and what happens when the galaxy underestimates our kind. This HFY, Humanity, Effort, story will leave you on the edge of your seat. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment to share your thoughts or favourite moments, and subscribe to my channel for more epic sci-fi tales like this one. Your support means the world to me and helps us grow this amazing community of sci-fi enthusiasts. Know the Galactic Council of the High Lords had finally come to the consensus that the human race was, without question, the most dangerous species ever to exist. It wasn't their technology or their warfare. It was something much more fundamental, and it had taken them decades to realize it. Humans had a single terrifying trait that no other species in the galaxy had ever possessed. They didn't know how to stay mad. For centuries, the High Lords had watched the humans closely. They'd observed their wars, their rebellions, and their global conflicts. They'd listened to their speeches, their songs, and their endless debates. At first, they thought the humans were just another primitive species destined to destroy themselves, like so many others before them. The galaxy was littered with the ashes of such civilizations. What made humans so different? It all began with the encounter between humans and the alien species known as the Vykarri. The Vykarri were feared across the galaxy for their brutal efficiency in war and their unyielding pride. Their empire had stretched across 10 systems before their first contact with humans. Their warriors were feared by all, and their battle tactics were studied in military academies throughout the universe. When they first encountered humanity, they expected the usual. The humans would bow before their might, or at the very least, they would cower in fear. But instead, the humans did something strange. They laughed. The Vykarri had no sense of humour. They had never encountered a species that could so easily laugh in the face of danger. They considered this a sign of disrespect and issued an ultimatum. The Vykarri's leader, Lord Zarok, transmitted a message to Earth that would forever change the trajectory of human history. Humans, the message boomed across the planet, you are to submit to Vykarri rule, or we will annihilate your species from existence. This is your final warning. The human governments didn't take the Vykarri seriously. They laughed again. The sheer audacity of the Vykarri's demands was absurd. They weren't just insulting humanity, they were underestimating them. And that, as the Vykarri soon discovered, was a grave mistake. Humanity responded to Lord Zarok's threat not with fear, but with a series of bold and ridiculous statements. News outlets, social media, and even the highest-ranking military officials started making jokes at the Vykarri's expense. "Don't make us mad, Zarok," one viral meme read. "We've got nukes, and we don't care what you think of them." The more the Vykarri threatened, the more humanity laughed, the more they mocked. Lord Zarok couldn't understand it. No other species had ever responded to their threats with mockery. It was unheard of, and as time passed, it began to gnaw at the Vykarri warlord's mind. The Vykarri were used to conquering civilizations with their might, but humanity refused to be cowed. The Vykarri decided they would make an example of Earth. They gathered their entire fleet in the Alpha Centauri system and began their approach to Earth with terrifying precision. It was supposed to be quick. The Vykarri would wipe out humanity in a single, flawless strike. What they didn't account for was the sheer chaos of human ingenuity. In the hours before the Vykarri fleet arrived, humanity mobilized its entire military. The world's governments abandoned their differences and united under one banner: survival. Nations that had been rivals for centuries set aside their quarrels to focus on a common enemy. Humans weren't unified by fear. They were unified by the need to prove something. The Vykarri underestimated the human resolve. thinking it was just bravado. But the humans were deadly serious. They didn't panic. They didn't scatter in terror. They didn't even call for help from other alien species, as other planets would have done in such a dire situation. Humans knew they could handle this. They had done it before against insurmountable odds. The Vykarri fleet came into range, and the first shots were fired. The Vykarri expected an easy victory, but instead, the humans unleashed hell. Earth's forces, aided by a rapid series of technological innovations born out of desperation, turned the tables. The Vykarri warships, let's jump right into it. Once impervious to attack, the Vykarri found themselves crippled by human-made weapons, some of which were entirely unexpected. The Vykarri had underestimated humanity's ability to improvise, to invent on the fly, to adapt. They didn't anticipate the fierce resourcefulness of a species with everything to lose. Lord Zarok watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart, one ship at a time. And as the Vykarri forces began to retreat, humanity sent a final message. It wasn't a threat or a warning. It was simply a message that read, "Don't make us mad." The Vykarri were humiliated. They had believed themselves to be the apex of power in the galaxy, but now they were running. And they would never forget the humans who had made them flee. But that wasn't the end of it. The galaxy soon realized what had happened. And it wasn't just the Vykarri. The ancient and powerful species that had ruled the galaxy for eons began to take note of humanity's unpredictable nature. And when they did, they realized something terrifying. Humans were not just a threat in terms of military might. They were dangerous because they had no fear of power. They had no hesitation to stand up to something much bigger and stronger than themselves, even in the face of certain destruction. And more importantly, the High Lords of the galaxy finally understood why humans kept saying, "Don't make us mad." Because when humans got angry, when they were pushed too far, they did not just fight back. They fought back with everything they had, using methods and tactics that no one could have predicted. It was this unbridled ferocity, this unrelenting determination to stand their ground, that made humans terrifying. The universe hadn't learned soon enough that to make humanity mad was to risk their utter destruction. As the Vykarri withdrew from their failed conquest, the High Lords convened in secret. They realized that humanity's potential was limitless, and they had made a fatal mistake. They had underestimated the very species they now feared. The galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson, and it was one that no one had ever dared to teach before. The universe had at last realized why humans kept saying, "Don't make us mad." In the aftermath of humanity's astonishing victory over the Vykarri, the galaxy held its breath. The High Lords of the Universal Council, once untouchable and feared, began to realize that their reign had come to an end. The message from Earth was clear, and it resonated across every corner of the galaxy. Humanity was no longer the weak, primitive species that had once cowered in the shadow of the great empires. They were something new, something unpredictable, something capable of unimaginable destruction. It didn't take long for the other galactic powers to react. The Zorathian, a race of towering beings with psychic abilities, were the first to move. They had long held a monopoly on telepathic warfare, and their mind shields were the stuff of legend. They had never met a species that could challenge them until now. The Zorathians sent an emissary to Earth, not to negotiate, but to understand how humanity had managed to break through their telepathic defenses during the Vykarri conflict. The human mind was supposed to be unfit for direct psychic combat, incapable of shielding itself from advanced mental influence. The emissary, a cold and imposing Zorathian named Haral Vor, arrived on Earth under the guise of diplomacy. His species had long since grown tired of being feared, and they saw humanity's recent victory as a challenge to their supremacy. They couldn't afford to let humans gain any more power. Haral Vor's task was clear: discover the secret to humanity's strength, or eliminate them entirely. The humans, ever pragmatic, welcomed the Zorthian to their planet with open arms. They were used to visitors by now, after years of sporadic contact with other galactic species. The public relations campaign was flawless. Humanity knew how to turn any encounter into an opportunity, even if that meant dealing with a race like the Zorthians. "We don't want to fight," Haralvor said, his voice echoing with an eerie calm that sent a shiver down the spine of everyone in the room. "But if you continue to resist, there will be no choice. We will make you comply." "Look, buddy," a human representative, General Joseph Andrews, replied casually. "I'm sure you're used to getting your way, but if you're here to threaten us, it's not going to work." Andrews leaned back in his chair, his face a picture of insubordination. Andrews leaned back. "If you've learned anything from the Vykarri, you should have figured out by now that we don't really care who you are or what you can do. Keep pushing, and you'll find out what happens next." The Zorthian emissary's eyes flashed a warning, but he didn't press further. He knew that to push too hard would mean alienating humanity completely. They had no idea what drove humans to act with such boldness, but Haralvor could see that it wasn't a bluff. The entire room felt the weight of his words, but not a single person flinched. The human species had found its resolve, and they weren't going to back down. A few weeks after Haralvor's visit, the Universal Council convened for an emergency session. The Zorthian had reported back with their findings. Humans weren't afraid of psychic manipulation. They had an immunity to it, something the Zorthian couldn't explain. Worse still, they had discovered that the humans didn't have any shields at all. Their resistance to mind control, however, wasn't due to natural defense mechanisms. No, it was because humans simply didn't care. Psychic influence was useless on a species that refused to be influenced. The High Lords quickly realized that this was a problem. In all their years of rule, they had never encountered a race that actively resisted control. Every species, no matter how powerful, had at least one weakness. Their minds were malleable. The Vykarri, despite their pride, had underestimated humanity's ability to defy conventional tactics. But it wasn't just the Vykarri. Now the Zorthian had been humbled, and other powerful species in the galaxy were growing nervous. The Council debated for hours. The Vykarri's defeat had shown them that brute force alone would not work against humanity, and the Zorthian failure demonstrated that psychic manipulation was useless. Humanity was unpredictable, and that was the most terrifying thing of all. The Council needed a new approach, one that could subdue the humans without making them even more dangerous. But then an unexpected voice spoke up. The Eldin, a species known for their mastery of technology and knowledge of ancient galactic lore, made a proposal. "Perhaps we should look beyond force and mind control," the Eldin representative suggested. "We've watched humanity for long enough to understand that they have something none of us possess, an almost reckless self-determination." The Eldin representative, a sleek and silver-skinned being named Cal, was an enigma to many. The Eldin had always distanced themselves from the politics of the galaxy, preferring instead to focus on discovery and research. But now Cal's insight was considered invaluable. What if we offered them a challenge? A challenge? Lord Zarek of the Vykarri sneered. And what challenge would that be? Do we provoke them further? "No," Cal replied, his voice calm and deliberate. "We offer them something they cannot refuse. We give them an arena, an opportunity to prove themselves. We ask them to test their limits, to see if they truly believe they are unstoppable. They might be dangerous, but they are also prideful. Let us see how far their arrogance can take them." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. They didn't know what Cal had in mind, but the idea of testing humanity's resolve, pushing them into a contest where their very existence would be at stake, seemed like the only option left. They had to test their mettle before deciding how best to handle the human threat. The challenge was set: the Universal Games, an ancient ritual used by the High Lords to settle disputes between civilizations, would be humanity's trial. Only those who succeeded would earn the right to continue existing in the galaxy, and only the strongest would be allowed to make decisions about the future. The games would be the ultimate test. But humanity, never one to shy away from a challenge, would soon find themselves in a fight for their very survival. Not just against the Vykarri, the Zorthian, or any of the other powerful species, but against something far worse, the weight of their own pride. And the High Lords, for all their planning and manipulation, had made a critical mistake. They had underestimated the most dangerous trait of all human hubris the Universal Games began, and for the first time in their galactic history, a species from Earth stood on the precipice of competing with the galaxy's most feared powers. The challenge was simple, or at least it appeared that way to the High Lords. A series of trials that tested every skill a species could possess: military strategy, psychic ability, technological innovation, and raw combat prowess. The games were designed for one purpose: to see which species was truly worthy of leadership in the galaxy. What the High Lords didn't anticipate was that humanity's competitive spirit wasn't like that of any other species. While the Vykarri had their pride, the Zorthians had their psychic abilities, and the Elden had their ancient knowledge, humanity had something different: an unmatched drive to prove that no one, no matter how advanced or powerful, could ever truly subdue them. The first challenge took place in the heart of the galactic arena, a vast and empty expanse where the most powerful species tested their combat skills. The arena, a floating city of sorts, was filled with advanced weaponry, traps, and labyrinthine mazes. Each species was placed into teams, and the objective was to capture the most valuable artifact hidden within the arena while fending off rivals. The Vykarri team, led by Lord Zarok, advanced swiftly, their tactical brilliance evident. The Zorthians, with their telepathic abilities, worked in perfect unison, their every movement a seamless dance of precision. But the humans, they didn't have psychic powers or millennia of military tradition. What they had was a mixture of ingenuity, instinct, and a deep-seated belief that they would find a way to win, no matter the odds. General Joseph Andrews, the leader of the human team, stood at the forefront of his soldiers as they entered the arena. "Remember, we don't have to be the fastest or the strongest. We just need to be the smartest," he said, his voice unwavering despite the magnitude of the challenge. Humanity's greatest strength was its adaptability, its willingness to improvise in any situation. The Vykarri and Zorathians seemed confident, but humanity played a different game. While the others focused on brute force, the humans took a more subtle approach. They knew the games weren't just about defeating opponents, they were about outthinking them. Every trap, every corner, every puzzle in the arena became an opportunity for humanity to prove they were more than just a species of fighters. They were problem solvers. They tricked the Vykarri into walking into their own traps and outwitted the Zorthians by using technology they had invented specifically for this moment, an EMP device designed to block psychic influence. The humans' victory was swift and unexpected. They won the first round not through sheer strength, but by exploiting the weaknesses of their opponents, a strategy that made the High Lords uneasy. No species in the galaxy had ever competed this way before. It was as if humanity didn't just want to win, they wanted to show everyone that no one was beyond their reach. As the games progressed, the challenges grew increasingly difficult. The next event tested technological prowess, designing and deploying a weapon capable of defeating a fleet of automated warships. The Vykarri, with their superior military technology, built an immense weapon, a massive cannon capable of obliterating the warships in seconds. The Zorthians, leveraging their psychic abilities, created an array of psychic drones that could predict enemy movements with frightening precision. But humanity, ever the underdog, created something different: a swarm of small, seemingly insignificant drones that operated on a decentralized network. Each drone was nothing special on its own, but when working together, they became a force capable of overwhelming even the most powerful defense systems. The High Lords watched as the human drones infiltrated the enemy fleet, systematically disabling the warships with their clever design. The humans won again, not with overwhelming force, but with the power of innovation. By the time the final challenge arrived, the High Lords were visibly nervous. Humanity had proven themselves time and again to be the most unpredictable and resourceful species they had ever encountered. The final trial was a test of strategic thinking, where the leaders of each species would command fleets in a simulated galactic battle with stakes that could change the course of history. The Vykarri were confident. They had the largest and most advanced fleet in the galaxy. The Zorathians believed their psychic powers would give them an edge, but humanity, once again, refused to play by the rules. Instead of relying on sheer military might, General Andrews did the unthinkable. He feigned weakness. He allowed his fleet to be overrun, knowing that the enemy would grow complacent. The Vykarri and Zorathians, hungry for victory, took the bait. When the time was right, humanity struck with precision. They turned the tables in a way no one expected, launching a counterattack that split the enemy fleets apart. The High Lords watched as the humans manipulated their opponents into making critical mistakes. As they had done throughout the games, humanity's final victory was a testament to everything they had shown the galaxy, that they were capable of anything, no matter how impossible it seemed. As they had done throughout the games, humanity's final victory was a testament to everything they had shown the galaxy, that they were capable of anything, no matter how impossible it seemed. As the dust settled, the High Lords had no choice but to acknowledge the truth. Humanity had won the Universal Games, and with it, the respect of the galaxy. The Vykarri, the Zorathians, the Elden, and every other species that had once believed themselves superior to Earth now found themselves at the mercy of the humans. No longer were the humans seen as a primitive race. They were the new power in the galaxy, and their place among the stars was now secure. The final message humanity sent to the galaxy was simple. We told you, don't make us mad. The High Lords understood at last. Humanity was not to be underestimated. They were a force of nature, capable of surviving and thriving in the face of any challenge. And in that final, defining moment, the entire galaxy learned what humanity had known all along. When pushed too far, when provoked to the limit, humans could and would do the unthinkable. And they were just getting started.